Okay, let me show you a couple of things next. If you're a student, at the top in the gold, this is what the students will have as their controls. They can see a list of all of the other students in the class. They can share their screen if you let them, so remember that's a setting. They can also interact in the chat. Now, they cannot record by default. As the host and the instructor, you'd have to give them permission if you want to let them record. However, I would usually just record the session for them, and then I would share that link. That way, I had a little bit more control over it. Now, down at the bottom, this is what you'll see if you're the instructor or the host. You get to manage your participants, so muting and unmuting using the waiting room. I'll show you all of that. If you have the Pro license, you can use polling for maybe like survey questions or quizzes or just get to know you types of things. You can use the share screen, and remember you've got settings for that. You can chat. Now, in the chat, you can send files. So if you have a handout like a PDF or something for the students to download, you can send that in the chat. I'll show you in a little bit. You'll have some options for recording. If you have the Pro license, you can do cloud. And then the closed captioning, I'll show you that briefly, as well as the breakout rooms if you want to do some small group work. And I'll walk you through that today. So as you can see, I know there's a ton of questions still open. I'm probably going to answer all of your questions if you brought questions on these features here. So let's walk through this together. We're going to join into our Zoom classroom. I'm going to start with managing and interacting with the students. Down here at the bottom left corner, you'll see your audio and your video. If the red slashes are there, that means they can't hear you and they can't see you. So you'd want to turn those on by clicking one time. Now, I want to highlight the little up arrows that you see to the right of each of those. Let's click on the one next to the right of my audio. This is my audio menu. Now, I'm making sure I've selected the right microphone and the right speaker from this menu. Make sure it's checkmarked. You can use a headset. This is what we would recommend as a best practice, but you don't have to. If you don't have one, you could always just plug in your earbuds. You could even use your Bluetooth, your AirBuds, or AirPods if you wanted to, and then you could even just use the built-in microphone and speaker within your laptop or something like that if you wanted to. So it's totally up to you, and you might let your students know that too. If you want to do a test and just make sure that it sounds okay and it's working all right, Zoom will walk you through this test, and that's really nice. So then you'll feel, more confident about it. To the right of the camera, let's open up that little up arrow. I'm selecting which webcam. So today I have an external webcam. I'm not using the camera on my laptop. I can choose virtual backgrounds. If you like those, you'd be able to do that. And then you also have your video settings from right here. So when I open my video settings, this is a nice little tip. I get to see myself in real time on the screen. Remember, I like to come in with my camera off. I can check, make sure I look okay over here, and then turn on my camera when I'm ready to do so. Also, if you like the backgrounds, you can always upload a background here if your computer can support the backgrounds. I don't have enough time to show that today, but I'll just mention that in passing. The next question is, how would you like to look at the students while you are in your class sessions? This is one option. It's called speaker view. And that means the person speaking is really large, like this on the screen. Everybody else is a smaller thumbnail. So if I'm maybe like leading the discussion, I don't really want to see myself that big on the screen the whole time. So I like to come up here to the top right corner and change it to gallery view. I love this one because I can see all the students, more easily on the screen. And by the way, this is only controlling your personal view of the class session. So you can switch that as many times as you want. Now, you might want to make an announcement to the students and let them know that they can switch it on their end as well if they'd like to view it in gallery view, or whatever. So that's just one thing to note there. And that's how we view our screens. Okay, let's go down because I want to move over now to the managing participants, another really important one right here. Oh, I forgot to do this. I forgot that I was going to tell you this. If you're sharing your screen like I am today, I'm sharing a PowerPoint. My favorite view of the screen is called side-by-side mode. I think I saw a question about this earlier. With side-by-side mode, these would be the students. This is my shared content. And take a look at the little bar. I'm going to try to highlight that there. You can pull that bar over and change the size of the videos and the shared content. So this would be a gallery view. If you change it to speaker view, only Matt would show because he's speaking. So you have even that level of control there. So I love that one. I think that's great. And this is where you find it, and the drop down at the top, side-by-side mode. You'll use that setting from your desktop client, by the way. So that's where you'll find it. Okay, now managing participants. Let's open up that one. I get to see a list of all the students. I can do a lot of things. You have a lot of control here. I can mute my students, unmute my students. I could do that one by one, or I could even mute all, and that cuts everybody's microphone except for mine because I'm the host. You can turn off people's cameras, but you cannot turn on their cameras. That's not allowed in Zoom. You also can turn on those nonverbal gestures, so people could raise their hand, give a thumbs up, the clapping. You'll see all of those nonverbals right here in the manage participants. So if you want to use the nonverbals, you'd want to have this open so you can see the participants box right here. Now you also can come to an individual. So one of the students lower their hand, put that student on mute, and then you've got some other items in this more drop-down menu, like let them do the recording, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, put somebody back in the waiting room. I'm going to show you what that looks like. And then if you have the pro license, you can choose someone to be your co-host. So maybe a TA or something. They don't have to have a license or anything. They just need to be a person in your meeting, and they can become a co-host. So they can help you with like lowering hands, muting people, and some of the other settings. Now let's go back over here to this more drop-down in the bottom right corner. Remember the muting participants? I like that one. I'm going to make sure that one's checkmarked from here. I also have a security feature. Locking the meeting is locking the door. Nobody else can join the meeting after that. And then if you want to use waiting room for your office hours, you'd want to make sure that's turned on right here. And let me show you what it looks like when people join your waiting room. So here they are. I'll receive this. This will kind of light up on the screen, so I'll know that people are waiting. And then I will be able to admit, remove, admit all, or even send a message out to the other students that are waiting in the waiting room. When they're in here, by the way, they don't see or hear anything that's happening in the meeting. They do not see or hear each other either. So they're just kind of like there. There's a screen that says, welcome to my waiting room. I'll be with you in a moment. So that's what it looks like. But again, a great tool for office hours if you want to try it out. And that's our managing participants. Now let's go over another way to interact is through the chat. And I usually would do this for maybe sending in questions while we were doing the lecture. So that's good. Now as the host, you can limit the chat if you want. Opening it up would be this one. Everyone can chat with everyone publicly and privately, but I can limit that all the way down to this option at the top called no one. That means chat is disabled, but you can still send out information as the host. For example, if I was going to do a pop quiz or something in my class, I would change the settings on the chat to where they can only chat with me, but not each other, because I don't want them to share, private answers to the questions. So that's just one example of how I would use that. Also, remember I mentioned the file transfer. If I choose here where I'd like to find my file, I'm just going to say my computer, I can attach it, send it through to the students, and they can download it. You could do PDF or, whatever, PowerPoint. They would need to download it during the actual class session. It's not saved anywhere for them to access later. But that's a really great use of the chat. Now, as some of us know, when you teach online, you need to be aware of accessibility. We do have this closed captioning feature for you. I had to use this a couple different semesters. What I did was I contacted the Accessibility Accommodations office on my campus. They actually hired a captionist, and she came to all my live class sessions. I assigned her to type, and then she typed the closed captioning. So that's one way it might work. We also can use a third-party service, and you can integrate with that if that's an option for you. To choose somebody to do the closed captioning, you just choose the name, the more drop-down, and then I made her this. So assign the closed captioning, and now she gets to do closed captioning. So that's what I did when I was doing that. Okay, that's a little bit about our interacting. Now this one, I know you want to know how to share your screen, do the lectures, and all of that. I will show you how to share your screen, how to do a live lecture, so if you want to do this more synchronously, but I also will mention that you could just press record and then you would have a recording of your lecture, and that would be more asynchronous. So then maybe you could share the recording with the students early, they could watch it, and then your live class sessions could be more for like discussion and going back and forth. I also will mention how maybe your students could do a group presentation if you'd like for them to. Come down to the middle of my sharing controls. I'm going to click share. And this is what will open up. Now in Zoom, you're not uploading anything. You're just showing whatever is on your screen in real time. Also, like I said before, in a Zoom meeting, everybody can share the screen. If you don't want your students to share, remember to remove that in your settings. Now, if I choose a desktop, let's start with this one up here, these three options. I have 3 monitors in front of me. That's why it says desktop 1, 2, and 3. If you choose that, they will see your entire desktop screen. But if you don't really feel comfortable with that, you can always choose a single application instead. So I'm going to talk in a second how you might just share a PowerPoint only, and I'll show you what that looks like. Let's come up here. This is the basic option. I'm going to show you whiteboard in a minute. The advanced option, I just wanted to highlight this one. If you're using a document camera and you need to do something live, you can make sure that's plugged in and show content from a second camera. Also, if you had some of your lectures or whatever saved in a Dropbox or one of these places, this is a shortcut, and you can open up a file that you had saved in one of these places. So you could always use that one. Usually, I use Basic the most. So choose either desktop or maybe PowerPoint. If I choose this, they will only see PowerPoint and nothing else on my desktop. Also, if you liked the music I did earlier, choose this option in the bottom corner. That shares the sound from your computer, and then I just pressed play on iTunes and you were able to hear the music. If you're going to pull open maybe like YouTube or something and show a clip, a video clip, make sure to click on Optimize, and that shares the sound of that video. That's really important so they can hear it, but also it reduces the lag or the choppiness of that video clip while it's playing. And then you just press share. So let me show you what it looks like. It looks, at first it looks kind of weird. So your tools, they're up at the top now, but that's a floating toolbar. So you can grab that with your mouse and you can move it out of the way. Also, remember I shared PowerPoint only. Look at the green frame. This lets me know that the students can only see PowerPoint. They cannot see any of this stuff back here that's on my desktop. So that's how you can control it. Now, the fun thing you can do is you and your students can annotate on anything that you're sharing. These are the annotation tools right here. So it opens up this little, like an extra bar. If you like the Spotlight tool that I'm using today, you could use that one for your mouse. You can type, you can draw, you can stamp. I'm going to show you what this looks like, and you can do that on anything. So PowerPoint, website, or whiteboard, and I'll show you the whiteboard here in just a moment. Some of your other tools are over here in that more drop down. So if you're wondering where they went, here's chat, here's the recording button, the breakouts, the closed captioning. So I'll show you that here in a moment. If you wanted to do whiteboard, it really is just a white space. This is what it looks like. So you and the students can draw together. You can do the stamps. You can type text on the screen. You can even save a picture of it, if it's really good and you want to save it for later. So that's what the whiteboard looks like. Now, if you wanted your students to do a group presentation, I would typically have all of the other class members turn off their camera. The group has the camera on. There would be one point person, and that person would share his or her screen and show the slides or whatever, and then each member of the group would just take their turn doing the presentation. So that's another option. If you would like to do any of this asynchronously, just come down here, press record, and then you can share that recording with the students. And in a little bit, I'll show you where to find the recordings and all of that. Okay, so those are some options for our lecturing. Let's move on to quizzes and those small groups, the breakouts. I know you want to hear about those. If you have the Pro license, you'll be able to do the polls like I did earlier. This can be whatever you want. I mean, I said you could use it as quizzes. The only options here, by the way, are multiple choice, so just kind of keep that in mind. But it could be a fun little quiz. It could be even something to get to know each other, like what's your favorite food. You could do survey questions, whatever you want to do here. You can set up all the polls ahead of time, 25 polls, and you can set up 10 questions under each poll. So you get them ready, and then they will be here whenever you're ready to launch them. Let me quickly show you what it looks like once you have those set up. So I'm just going to go back into our class that we scheduled together. I'm back in my portal on the website, and roll to the bottom. If you have the Pro license, here's the option to add polls. So just click Add. You can add up to 25. And this is what it looks like now that I have it ready to go. Let me just click Edit so you can see what it looks like. Name it. Here's my question. Put in your answers, single choice or multiple choice. If you want it to be anonymous, you can. Now, you can run a report of all of the polls, and that's how you could grade it, if you wanted to actually give them a score for the questions that they got right or wrong. If it's anonymous, you won't see whose name is attached to the answers. So just remember, if you're grading, to take that off. But if it's more sensitive questions, you might want to leave that one on. Here's one question. You can add 9 more questions. And then press save. It's all ready to go. Now I'm back in the class session, and I can go ahead and launch that poll. Up here at the top, nobody can see this yet, by the way. The little drop down, that tells me the polls I have saved, and I can choose whichever one. As the host, you get one more extra special perk. You can click Edit. It will take you back in the portal where we just were. You can add a poll on the spot, come back, and it will be waiting for you, and then you can launch it. So just one kind of nice thing. And then honestly, polling is really easy. You just follow the directions. So choose your poll, come down here, launch the poll, and now you'll see the answers and the poll, and then share the results. If you wanted to share, I didn't do that earlier, but if you wanted to share, they will see the percentages, but they will not see the counts. Okay, stop sharing when you want to stop. And then if you ever needed to, you could relaunch. That will clear out all the previous answers, relaunch it, and you'll get all new answers. And that's just telling you that right there. Okay, I've only got about 5 minutes left or so. Let's go through breakout rooms. This is available to everybody, even on the free plan. You are breaking your larger classroom into little Zoom classrooms, but they'll still have all the same functions like audio, video, share screen, chatting, and it's a really fun way to do small group activities. Let me walk you through it. This will tell you how many students you have, and then choose the number of rooms you'd like to create. You can put everybody out automatically or at random, or you could do it more manually, totally up to you. Let's click Create. And now the rooms are created. These aren't started yet, so I can make changes. If I want to, I can move someone to a different room. I can exchange someone for someone else if I wanted to, and now these two will switch places. So just make your selections. Come down here to the bottom left before we open them, and you'll want to choose your options. Moving everybody out automatically, I probably would do that, especially if they're not too familiar with how this works yet, and then let them come back to the main session, up to you. Put a time limit, and even send out a warning time if you would like to set that up. And then you just open them. So let's open the rooms. They are all invited out to their small breakout sessions. And as the host, you can move in and out. You can leave. You can join. Your co-host, by the way, can leave and join as well. You can send out a message to all the rooms at once. I think this would be great for sending out directions like, for the next 5 minutes, please work on discussion question number 2. Broadcast it out, and then everybody gets the message. So those are a couple of things that you can do. When you're ready, you're just going to close all those rooms. And then if you wanted to know what it looks like for the students, this is it. It looks exactly the same, right? Come down here. They have one extra special button. They can ask you for help by clicking there, invite them, hey, I need help. And then on my screen, I see, oh, Breakout 2 needs help. Let me join and go help Breakout 2. Or I can do that later. So that's what it looks like to use them. I would probably just try it. Just let the students know, hey, we're going to try something really fun and crazy. We'll see how it works. Okay, last couple of things. How to track attendance, how to find your recordings. This is going to be back in the portal where we spent a little bit of time today. So I'm going to transition. And your reports, if you have Pro, you'll be able to run a report of your polls. You also can run a usage report, and that's your attendance. So it tells you who all showed up for class and how long they stayed and all of that information. The recordings, if you have the free plan, you'll have local. That means you have saved an MP4 file of the recording on your computer, and this tells you where it is. So it's in my documents folder. I just need to go find it. When I used to do that, I would just upload it to YouTube, and I would set it to unlisted and then share out the YouTube link if it's too big of a recording to share. But the cloud recording, if you have Pro, I love this. This is what I'm going to do for you tomorrow. Look how easy this is. I will click share, and you could do this for your students. Copy the link and paste it for the students, and that's it. So it takes 2 seconds. You don't have to upload. They don't have to download. They can click and watch this recording immediately, and that's what I'll do for you tomorrow. Okay, let's go back. I just want to do one more thing with you. We have talked about a lot of different ways to use Zoom as your classroom, so the kind of teaching and learning. But in the education space, don't forget that there are lots of other use cases for Zoom. We talked a little bit about office hours, but tutoring. If your students want to sign up for a free account of their own, they could have their own little study groups. You could invite someone to be a guest speaker. I mean, this would be the perfect time for that, right? Nobody can go anywhere anyway. So just invite someone. They can join on Zoom. Give a little lecture to your class. They don't have to travel anywhere. Parent-teacher conferences, my husband loved that idea. So just meet with the teachers, using Zoom. Professional development options, maybe online conferences, work groups, even training or observations. And then if you want to think more district-wide, you could do staff meetings, interviews on Zoom, announcements, or even demos of your emergency procedures. So just, a few more ideas if you're interested in thinking through those.